Last night I went to bed, and we are going to talk about blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, because I did say that we were going to
Yes.
discuss last week,
Yeah.
and I did a comparison. I did a chart so that we can talk about it and look at the difference between the Hebrew and the Aramaic and what's being said, what was written in the Psalms versus when Yeshua said, and we're going to talk about that. But I did want to bring something else up that I went to bed with last night. It's a phrase I've been hearing this for a while. I've said it. I've heard my husband speak of it. I have heard people like who Jesse really respects. We all respect in this house, Jordan Peterson, and things that he's said it. And it's the word potential. And so last night I went to bed and I was meditating on it, just the phrase of potential energy. And what does that look like? Because when we look at the Hebrew words and we look at the root, I have called it, and I'm sure that Ken has too, and I'm not saying that either one of us have coined it or that we have ownership on it, but we see that there's potentiality that is within the root of the word that hasn't been activated yet. It's like static in nature, lump of clay, ready to be made and molded and shaped and activated upon, and it has full of potential. Well, what is potential energy? And the reason why I was really meditating on this is because for me spiritually, I have been looking at the Kuf, and I know that Jesse has looked at the Kuf before too a couple weeks ago because it was speaking to him. And I keep coming back to the Kuf because I know that the longer I spend time with the language, the more is being revealed, because the more time that we are involved with it, it is a language of light, and light equates to information. So the more information, the more light we take in, then the more can be revealed to us, because it's really affecting our level of consciousness of what we can see. And so then more revelations come. And I've really seen, before I was looking at more like at the way that Jim Staley had presented it to me when I first saw it, because it's the sun on the horizon, and you've got part is light and part is dark. And so there's things that are being revealed that were once hidden in darkness. And it means time and circle and all these things. And so I was looking at it from that view, and it said a lot to me. But it's saying more to me now because of the actual picture of itself with the paleo, having a circle with a line in the middle of it. I realized, and this goes into potential energy, that when we walk in that middle line, right in the middle of the line, we are neither light nor dark. That is like the narrow path. I mean, that's the way I see it now, is that it is totally the narrow path. And so potentiality came into it, because when we can take the dual system of the light and the dark, because that's really what Kuf is showing light and dark. And then it's showing the horizon half lit in the darkness that's behind it, but that exact middle point between the light and the dark, neither being light nor dark, but being right in the middle of being the narrow path. And so going to bed last night, meditating on that, going, gosh, potential energy. So, I'm meditating, I'm getting ready to go to bed, and I'm like, I need to look this up. So then I get my computer out. So much for meditation, getting on technology.
Oh, that's exactly what I did. That's like, hilarious.
So I'm laying in bed. I'm like, dang it, I need to look this up. So I went and pulled up potential energy, and I saw 3 different forms of energy that I found fascinating. And then it led me to the thought this morning about holiness. What is holiness? So I'm going somewhere with this, and then I won't take too much time, because I really want to compare these 2 verses so that we can see what's going on with blessed is who comes in the name. But potential energy is the energy that is stored, that has potential to cause change. And like in its basic translation, basic definition, that's what it is. Energy stored, waiting to be used later. So when we talk about compressing light, because I will say that many times, that Kuf also has to do with compressing light over the circle of time, as you're taking it in and bringing in more light through the circle of time. What we're actually doing is we're compressing potential energy that can then be used to affect things. And so they even had examples like an apple. So there's gravitational potential energy, there's elastic potential energy. There's all these different kinds of potential energies. The gravitational one would be like a brick sitting on the edge of a building that has potential to fall through gravitational pull. That would be a release of the energy. Or the potential energy that is stored in an apple, because it has the potential of being released from the tree and then creating a divot in the ground. Or the potential energy when a rock is at the top of a hill, or a car or a bicycle, the potential energy of what would be released in the kinetic energy as it starts coming down the hill. And it just, something so simple that we learn in science when we're, you know, in our formidable years, or on a, you know, I'm taking it to base root, but it really got me thinking about when we say that we render everything clear in that oneness aspect of it, where we're neither light or dark, we are just in the place of potential energy. And I believe that for me, I needed to understand that the element of oneness is the element of stored potential energy that could affect change, but chooses not to, because it's in the place of oneness where they've rendered everything. That this is actually the description of what we would call neutrality, because I know that Ken has used that phrase, and we have been discussing it. That neutrality isn't necessarily, well, I'm just not going to pick a side, because if you say that, you've already chosen a side. You've chosen neutrality. There's a difference between choosing neutrality versus being neutrality. And the best way for me to sum it up, and I think, because I'm trying to also connect, because Ken will use words to define certain things. I will use words to define certain things. They're different words. They say the same thing. And so I try to bridge so that when we have discussions, we can find ways of building bridges to bring forth concepts that then we can attach ourselves to. We're understanding the meaning of it. So for me, what I see, that place of neutrality with the Kuf, that narrow path, is potential energy that could affect change, but chooses to stay in that place of just stored energy. Because in the light or dark, you can go either way.
Excuse me.
And this is the part, and I think this is where wisdom comes from, because people have a hard time describing, I've had a hard time describing wisdom. What is, so the place of potential energy then is the place that is stored energy, and that when we choose, so in a dual system where we live, I think the wisdom comes from being in the place of potential energy and choosing to not expend the energy, not making it kinetic energy, because that then forces change to happen. And what I mean by that is that if you go to the light, the more that you go to the light, then there's an opposite that has to balance it. More light means more darkness. And duality, so this issue of duality has been on my mind for months now as I've been wrestling duality, because in our own house here, we've been talking about the Hebrew language as a system of duality, because every word has light and has dark. If you want to break it down to base elements like the Kuf, right? So you've got half is light, half is dark. Literally, the Hebrew language embodies that. And so we even hear in the English scriptures, English interpretations about the narrow gate and the narrow path, and few that be there that find it. However, King James, you find the narrow path. The narrow path to me now, in the system of duality, as expressed through the Hebrew language, is the place of potential energy, not going to the light or not going to the dark, but rendering everything clear in the middle and staying in the potential energy instead of the kinetic energy. And I find this interesting because in that place, I believe that the system controllers in duality understand that they can put pressure on us. So the difficulty lies in a system of duality, of choosing that place of neutrality, which is potential energy, to not have it become elastic potential energy. Elastic potential energy, a good way to look at this, is an arrow, bow and arrow. So as the bow is drawn back, that is elastic potential energy. It is stored, but it has been bent. It has been pulled. It is waiting to be released in kinetic energy, which then compounds the force. So you think about the power of releasing the arrow because of the elastic potential energy. So the wisdom for me of what I feel like Spirit has been telling me when I went to bed last night and I was meditating on this was that the friction that they are trying to create right now is they want to move those who have found the place of potential energy where they are choosing to stay in that place of neutrality. They know that there is energy there to affect change. So they're doing everything they can to make us draw back our bow to create that elastic, because they know that it can only be held for so long. So you think about that potential elastic energy. The arm can only hold that back for so long before it has to release the arrow.
Yeah, right.
And so for me, that's not true peace. For me, what that says, and I'm going to use this for me, there are times where I will just take certain things. I will just take it and I won't respond, but then it builds pressure in me.
Yeah.
And as it builds pressure in me, it is causing me to draw my bow back.
Yeah.
I get more pressure, I pull it back a little more. I get more pressure, I pull it back more until I'm at the fullest extent of what that elastic potential energy is, until I cannot hold it anymore. And the arrow is released. So I'm sharing that because I really needed to find a way to define for myself what that place of true peace is. What does it look like to walk on the narrow path, rendering everything clear in that place of neutrality, of potential energy that chooses to stay in neutrality and not be kinetic energy in any way, shape, or form, not turning to the right, not turning to the left, not putting to the light, not putting to the dark, because every time you make a step to the right of light, you create more dark to balance it. You take a step to the dark, you create more light. They have to balance each other out in the system of duality. But that is what has been causing the polarization that is affecting us to have elastic kinetic energy. Because literally what's going on right now, so again, this is a way to describe what the heck's been going out in the world. Because the light is saying they're here and they're saying the other side is dark, right? Projecting their darkness on the other side, it causes the other side, who think they're light, projecting the dark upon the other side, to begin with elastic kinetic energy.
Oh, yeah.
Pulling back and pulling back and pulling back and pulling back.
And there's a breaking point. Yeah.
Exactly. And so this is why I feel that the wisdom for us is being able to hold our shalom. You know, there's that passage in the Old Testament, it says, where you hold, it was a phrase I used all the time, and I can't remember it right now because I think I've gone past it, but it basically summarizing it is, stand still and see the deliverance of the Lord. You know, the deliverance, and you shall hold your peace. And I see that so much differently before, because before it was like, well, God's going to take care of it for me.
Yeah.
And that's not what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
This elastic friction that is happening in this potential energy is for us to see the futility and the vanity of it, because of the potential of destruction on either side as their arrows. And it is up to us as strong leaders who have taught ourselves, Els, Aleph Lameds, to hold our shalom in the middle of it and not have that electric kinetic energy pull us either way. I believe that is what true wisdom is, and that is the definition of what shalom is in that place.
That's good, Terry.
That's the middle
Yeah.
path would be up the tree of life. That's the way, the mystic, but it's also the Sephirot would be the 3, 6, and the 9.
It is. It's
That's
the
pretty cool.
etheric side. It is the etheric side of things. And I honestly believe this, and I think this is why I meditated on this last night, because of the wrestling that I've been dealing with, is that I have been also meditating on activating my Merkaba. You know, I talk about it all the time. I understand the 1, 2, 4, 7, 8, 5. I mean, I understand all of the numbers and how the sequences are in the material realm, but it's that etheric 3, 6, 9 realm that must be activated in order to make the Merkaba spin properly, because both sides have to be activated. You know, one is the right side up pyramid, which is our material. The other, the 3, 6, 9, is the pyramid that is upside down, that's etheric, that is meant to join. And if we're polarized on either side, we cannot activate our Merkaba.
Yeah,
And so
okay.
all of these things were coming to a head last night, this morning, as I was looking at this, of trying to figure out, how can I describe this? What does it mean to me? How can I relate this to other people, so that when they hear us say, we are rendering everything clear, that is neither black nor white, is clear. That's what allows the light to shine through, because we have found that place of neutrality. We've found that place of shalom. We have found that place of potential energy that then radiates outwardly and lets our light shine. That's what illuminates the path and gives us the wisdom to be able to navigate the illusion and learn in the training school that everything on the right or the left is vanity. It's just, you know, all the people that talk about that they want this world to be good, and we need to just eradicate the evil, and so we just have to have more good in the world. We need more light. We need to render things clear so that we can have more inward formation, which is then an elevation in our consciousness level.
Yes. Yeah.
Then, as we do that, then we're not judging each other, projecting. I'm light, you're dark. No, I'm light, you're dark.
Right.
I believe is the essence of the wisdom of entering into the age of light and love.
Yeah.
Is rendering everything clear. And now it makes much more sense to me, because I just was wrestling it, and I put the questions out there, and it's like the answers came. And so then I was wrestling, well, so then what is holy? What is kadosh? What is kadosh to kedusha? Because kadosh is the Hebrew word and kedusha is the Aramaic. And what I realized is that vav, so the root of kadosh, of holy, is kadash. There's no vav in it. Right? And so we render it down as definition as meaning set apart for ceremonial use. Right? It's stuff that is set apart and it's not being used commonly, right? But it has a vav in the middle activating it. And I know that we've discussed in our house that the vav has to do with humility, and it has to do with meekness. But now I'm understanding what meekness is. That meekness is the piercing of the heart, which is the narrow path, which is where we've rendered everything clear, and we stay in potential energy. And where does that potential energy reside? In the center of our being, in our heart. That's where our mind, our will, our emotions, our soul as a breathing entity, we have potential energy to change. But when we take that potential energy, instead of manifesting it outwardly, we take it and then we focus it inwardly. Where does that potential energy then go towards? The change within. And when we change within, we automatically affect the outward without taking the kinetic energy that would cause polarity.
Yeah, that's good, Carrie. Wow.
So holiness is being in that place. It's interesting because I used to think like set apart means, oh, you're just totally set apart. So you're over here and the rest of the world is over here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it that way anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I see it through the potential energy,
Mm-hmm.
not being expressed in kinetic energy. That's what makes you set apart, because you choose that place of neutrality, rendering everything clear because you've connected at your heart level,
Mm-hmm.
and you choose not to affect things outwardly that would then cause polarity.
Yes.
So then the opposite of that would be that of common use, those things that then cause polarity. And that's the difference between the holy and the profane, is that the profane, since it starts with a tet, it means you're wrestling. Well, what are you wrestling? You're wrestling duality.
Mm-hmm.
So then you've become profane. You've become common, because that's what the common thing is in the sense of duality. It's always about the polarity.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I finally was able to understand what the difference was between that which was holy and that which was profane, because I was always seeing it, especially through the Hebrew perspective.
Yeah.
You would look at it with the temple, and you had all these implements that were holy, and the things that weren't, and the common use and the not common use, and it was all these rituals and temples. And it's like, well, wait a minute here, I need to find a way to be able to understand that. If I'm the temple, what does that mean? How am
Right.
I holy, or how am I profane? How do I take this information to produce something in me, to change me, to affect me?
Yeah.
Now I know.
Wow. That's
So I
really
hope that helps
profound.
shed some light on
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
for you guys, and we can continue having discussions on this, because this really knocked my soul.
Yes.
I was like, oh my gosh, this is
This is foundational. Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
now. It doesn't mean that I've arrived there. It just means that I have understanding so that I can aim in that direction,
Mm-hmm.
taking that center path, finding the 3, 6, and 9 of the etheric, and begin to adopt that within my life until I can manifest it. Because now, taking the look at the word judging, the only judging that is to be done is our own personal judging. This is why I believe that Yeshua said, judge not lest you be judged. Because the only judging that is done is by ourself, by our own standards of measurement. So now, understanding and comprehending the word holiness, of being able to see what that place of neutrality is now a standard of measurement I can use to judge my actions. And it's not even so much the outward manifestation of my actions, because once you do that on the inside and you're judging the inside actions, they automatically manifest outwardly.
Right. Yeah.
Hence why taking every thought captive, or why Yeshua said, hey, if you've committed adultery in your own mind, you've already manifested outward, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's everything that goes on in this place of the heart.
Yeah.
So the meekness, the humility and the meekness is that piercing that takes place in the heart, which is the narrow path of rendering everything clear, of holding on to potential energy as to not affect the polarity. And as long as I do that, then everything that manifests will come from that chaotic form. If I choose not to make my potential into kinetic. So.
Wow.
Yeah, super good.
Yeah. It does.